Hello students. So in the last video we talked about how topics that are important are parts of much bigger conversations, and when we write about or present or work on a topic, we are adding our voices to that big conversation, often the global conversation that is happening, that started long before us and will continue long after us. In order to add our voice in a good way, to make our voice meaningful in that conversation, we need to show that we understand the conversation. We know what people have said about it before. We know what the experts have said. We know the important thinkers or the important ideas in the area. And once we show that to our audience, the audience trusts us and respects our knowledge enough to listen to our new ideas. Now, we then mentioned that as we show this knowledge, as we show that we've done the reading and we know the important ideas in the area, we also need to be careful to make sure our ideas are separate from other people's ideas, that we never ever somehow make it look like somebody else's idea belongs to me, to us. And this is the topic, this is the discussion of how to avoid plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism is academic stealing. It is a big deal, and it can come back a long time after you've done it. Years and years later, some people have been humiliated or had their career disrupted because of plagiarism in their past. It's a big deal to us, to any school, because the school is embarrassed too. Surprisingly, well, this seems surprising at first, but accidental plagiarism is the consequences are just as bad with accidental plagiarism as with intentional plagiarism. It doesn't really matter if you didn't mean to. It's really important to avoid plagiarism, even accidental plagiarism. And the way to do that is to be careful and to pay attention to details and take notes accurately. Now, we said to avoid plagiarism, you have to do a few things. First of all, you need to let the audience or the reader know every time you use someone else's words or ideas. You don't need to cite common knowledge, information that people would say, yeah, everybody knows that. You can use paraphrases, which is where you summarize somebody's words. Or you can use quotations, which with quotation marks you can use the exact words of your source. Okay. You need to be careful, and if you're not sure whether you should cite something or not, cite it. Put in a citation, because it's better to be extra careful and extra safe than to be a little careless and have to deal with a plagiarism accusation. And finally, you need to give your reader enough information that they can find the source themselves. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what that means. Now, that information includes things like the title, the author, the publisher, the date, sometimes the volume or issue, the editor, sometimes the place of publication, the chapter title or the article title. Page numbers are really important. You should have the first and last page of any article that you're using, and you should also have the page where the idea or the sentence appears in that book or article that you're quoting. Okay, you should always know the page number of anything that you're going to use in your writing. But how do we organize that information? The way we organize the information actually differs. There are a few systems out there that are common in different fields. And the two most popular ones for university level writing, once you get to graduate level, specialist level, and expert level, it changes. But for undergraduate university writing, the two most common are called MLA and APA. Okay, and which one you use actually depends on your major. The major that you have, so in this class I'm going to ask you to use the system that it goes with your major. Okay, but sometimes your professor will ask you to use the style that fits the class they're teaching. So MLA style, MLA is Modern Language Association, and Modern Language Association standards are used in all the academic publishing and the writing for the humanities and liberal arts. Now, which majors are the humanities and liberal arts? Any languages major, literature, cultural studies, religion, fine arts, and that means things like art or music or film. Okay, those are the best known MLA style humanities majors. Okay, so if you're taking a class in those majors, or if you have one of those majors, in the class you might have to use MLA style. And in this class, I'm asking you to use MLA style because that's the style of publishing in your major. APA style, APA stands for American Psychological Association. And the American Psychological Association guide is used in the social sciences. It's used in the sciences, things like engineering, chemistry, physics, mathematics. Okay, all can use APA style. Engineering, education, psychology, political science, and business majors can all use APA style. If you're not sure which of these styles fits your major, one thing you can do is just do a Google search of should mo majors use MLA or APA. And Google will give you an answer because MLA and APA are very common, well known on the internet, and they are standards across every English speaking university. So there's lots of information about them, and it shouldn't be hard to find. Now, I'm going to talk about what you should do in the actual thing that you are writing to make sure you have good citations and good references. Okay? So when you are writing your essay, in your paragraphs, you will want to use another person's idea. In fact, you're required to use at least three other sources, three other people's ideas in your writing. And when you do, you need to signal in the paragraph that, hey, this idea right here, this is not my idea. This idea belongs to somebody else. And the way to do that is with an in-text citation. In your essay, you need an in-text citation. And then at the end of your essay, in MLA style, it's called a works cited page. And in APA style, it's called a references page. But they're the same. So first we're going to look at an in-text citation. In the middle of the essay, you very briefly mention the source, just so readers know they're not reading your ideas. And you can do this by using language that introduces the writer. For example, in this little quote, there's a lot men do not realize about women's fashion. For example, the fact most women's pants do not have useful pockets. Awahand says, if men's pants came without pockets, they would riot. Now, in this one, the writer of this quote is Awahand. So, because his name is in the paragraph, we only need the page number of where you can find that quote in parentheses. Okay? But this needs to be in parentheses. And this is MLA style, by the way. And we'll look at how a APA style in-text citation is different in just a second. If you're not using the author's name in the writing, then you put the author's name in parentheses too in your in-text citation. So there's a lot men do not realize about women's fashion. For example, the fact very few women's pants come with useful pockets. If men's pants came without pockets, men would riot. Awahand, 21. You need in-text citations both for quotations and for paraphrases. If you summarize, you need a in-text citation for that as well. So here we have a paraphrase. There's a lot men do not realize about women's fashion. For example, the fact very few women's pants come with useful pockets, a feature that might cause men to riot. Awahand 21. So once again, we're giving the name of the writer and the page number where you can find that idea for any reader or listener who wants to go find where the writer Awahand said that. So we're going to go through. Here are some ways of making your in-text citation. Okay. In MLA style, if you name the author in the text, then you just put the number of the page. In APA style, if you name the author in the text, Awahand says, Professor or Bill Gates says, then you put P21 to show page 21. If you don't name the author in the text, then in MLA style, you just give the name of the author and the page number. But with APA style, you give the name of the author, the year, and the page number. And you'll also notice here that APA style has more commas and things like that. If the author is unknown, if there isn't an author in the book, or you don't know who it is, or some publications, sometimes something is published by Greenpeace or the government of Korea. Sometimes the author is unknown. Then you would use the title of the article or the title of the book. So this book title is Unfair Fashion for Women. And in MLA style, it's just Unfair Fashion for Women and the page number. And in APA style, it's Unfair Fashion for Women, comma, the year it's published, comma, P21. Okay. And pay attention to those little details, like there's a period after the P, there's a space between the P period and the number. Okay, those little things, those little details are important, and you should try to have it exactly the same. So this is what you have in your essay. It's called the in-text citation. And then this doesn't give all of the information we said that we need, right? We said you need to give your reader the title, the author, the year, the publisher, okay, and sometimes more information. So where do we put that extra information? Well, we put it on the last page of the essay. So this is called, in MLA style, the works cited page. In APA style, the references page. And this page is not part of the page count when your professor says, please write 3 pages. The works cited or reference page is not part of those 3 pages. But on that page, on the last page, you need to list every source you mention in your essay. So this is where you give the extra information that you didn't have space for in your text. Okay? And in the text, we had the author's name, so on the works cited page or the references page, we arrange it in ABC order, ABC, starting with the author's name. Okay. For these in-text citations, for the references, pay attention to details like the italics, the underlines, the quotation marks, where the colons are, or commas and periods. It's important to get these details correct because this is part of the standard, and following these instructions and getting it correct helps people to see that you can pay attention to detail, and it helps people to process the information you're giving them faster and more easily. And for people who read a lot of academic work, this makes their job a lot easier if it's easy for them to see what type of information you're giving them because it follows the rules. In your works cited page, every entry should be in a hanging indent. The hanging indent means only the first line goes all the way to the left side of the page. After the first line, the rest of the lines, they move over a little bit. They move over on the page so that it's easy to see where a new entry begins, and it's easy to scan by the author's family name. And because that family name is what we use in the in-text citation, it's important to be able to find that really quickly for anybody who's checking your sources. Now, here are some example citations in MLA style and APA style for the most common types of sources that you'll probably be using in the sources you find for your writing assignments. There are lots of other special cases that you might need for the books or articles you find, and for each of those, the MLA guide and the APA guide have what you need. They have the instructions, and they really work hard to cover every possible situation. So don't worry, they've got it. You just have to find it. So here's how you cite a book on your works reference page, your works cited page in MLA and your references page in APA. And you'll notice little differences, like the MLA uses the full name and APA uses just the first letter of the person's given name. You'll notice that MLA puts the year last and APA puts the year second after the author's name. In MLA, they don't give the location, they don't give the place that the publisher is. But in APA style, they do. You have to include the location of the publishing house or the location of the university, the city where the book or article was published in books. If you have 2 authors in your book, okay, this is how you do it. And if your book has 3 or 4 or 6 or 7 authors, the MLA guide will tell you what to do, and the APA guide will tell you what to do. So go look it up in there. For a journal article, an academic journal, here we have the title of the article is in quotations in MLA, but in APA it's not in quotations. And in MLA, they put capitals for all of the important words. Okay, all of the nouns and adjectives and verbs are capital. But in APA style, they're not. They don't capitalize the other letters, only the first letter and proper nouns, names. Then the name of the journal is in italics. Okay, italics are those little slanted letters. Okay, make sure that your letters are slanted. And there is a page number for a journal article, because journal articles aren't the entire journal. They're just some pages of the journal. Now, in APA style, they also have the DOI code, and that is a permanent address where you can find this academic article. You can put a DOI code into any database, and it can find your article. So that's a useful thing for when you need to find an article. If you found a journal article in a database, then you should mention the database. Okay, but please remember that the database is not the same as the journal. And DBpedia is a database. DBpedia is like this. A DBpedia is not a journal. It doesn't publish things. DBpedia is a tool that helps you find articles published by journals. It's not a journal itself. So make sure that your DBpedia reference is here at the end, not in the place where your journal name should be. An anthology is a collection of articles, sometimes from different writers, collected into one book. And here is how to cite an anthology in the different ones. One of the biggest differences you'll notice each time is that APA puts the year right after the author's name, and they use the first initial of the author's given name instead of the full given name of the author. And again, MLA uses quotations, APA doesn't. Okay, so these are the differences. Here's a work with an editor. Most anthologies have editors. An encyclopedia entry, this is how you do that. Okay, a newspaper or a magazine article. There are a lot of newspapers and magazine articles. A lot of people use them in their academic work. So once again here, please pay attention to how the title, how the name of the newspaper, and how the page number go on this. And the date is really important with newspaper and magazine articles. Okay, a web article, an internet article. Now remember what we said about the CRAP test before. Think carefully about using internet articles in academic work because they haven't passed the level of scrutiny that peer review gives. Okay, so use internet articles very carefully if you use them at all, because they do not do as well on the CRAP test as journal published articles. Now, after you have all of these entries in your works cited for MLA or your references page for your APA, put them in alphabetical order so that the family name of the author is first. And like I said, these should all be in hanging indent style. So you'll notice that we put this in alphabetical order, so A comes before B. Here, once you get to the next letter, you do the same thing. KID comes before KIM. And if you have more than one author with the same name, Kim A, Kim G, Kim Z, and then King comes after N, comes after M, so King comes after Kim. Okay, and just make sure that you've arranged your sources in alphabetical style. If one of the articles doesn't have an author, then you might need to have a title in there. If a book doesn't have an author, then you use the title. And so we've got made up title for made up book. And again, M comes after K. So this is where it would go. And then the in-text citation for this one would probably be, something like this. You don't need the entire title, but you need enough words of the title that you can find it when you scan. Now, there are lots of special cases that aren't listed here. There are lots of types of sources, for example, a tweet or a YouTube video or a lecture or a speech that are not mentioned in this video or in this document. But if you go to the APA or the MLA website, and I will have lots of links in the box below this video, you can find instructions for every possible type of source, every possible type of special case for those sources. Their whole job is to make sure that there's always a rule for how to make a correct citation for something. So either on the MLA or the APA website or with one of the online guides, there's a number of universities that publish really excellent online guides about MLA and APA citations and in-text citations and reference pages. So there's lots of things for you to find and see. But if you have any of those special cases, just go to those guides and you will see it. And I'll provide links below. Thank you for listening. Make sure that you do this right because this is super important. And if you mess it up, the consequences can be heavy and the consequences can last a long time. So it's really better to be too careful, than to be careless and make a mistake. Thank you again for your attention. Good luck with your work, and I look forward to seeing your citations next class. I look forward to seeing your citations next class, and I look forward to seeing you next class. Have a great day.